Ethan lived a life measured in millimeters and angles. His world was one of quiet concentration, filled with the crisp scent of drafting paper and the soft scratch of a pencil sketching a future that only he could see. Every morning the sun would find him already at his desk, a cup of tea growing cold beside him, lost in the intricate dance of creating spaces for people to live, work and dream. He did not seek fame or fortune. For Ethan, the real reward was the work itself. The puzzle of fitting a family's hopes into the bones of a house, or the challenge of making a public library feel like a welcoming hug. He believed that buildings had souls, and it was his job, his quiet passion, to give them a kind one. His office was a small, cosy space tucked away on a side street that most people hurried past without a second glance. It was filled with rolled-up blueprints that stood like silent soldiers in corners, and models of buildings that looked like a miniature city from a forgotten fairy tale. His colleagues knew him as the quiet one, the man who spoke more through his designs than with his voice. They respected his skill, but in the loud, competitive world of architecture, quiet talent was often like a whisper in a storm. Ethan did not mind. He was happy in his world of lines and light, content to let his creations speak for him, believing that good work done with heart would always find its way. He found joy in the smallest details that others might overlook. The way a window could be placed to catch the morning sun just right, warming a kitchen floor as a family started their day. Or the gentle curve of a staircase that made climbing it feel less like a chore and more like a graceful ascent. These were the things that mattered to him. He was a poet whose verses were made of brick and glass, a storyteller whose narratives were built into the very framework of the city. His love for his job was a deep, steady river flowing through him, a constant source of purpose and quiet satisfaction in his otherwise unassuming life. But sometimes, a quiet river can be disturbed by a sudden, unexpected storm. Ethan was so focused on the beauty of his craft that he was often unaware of the currents of ego and ambition that swirled around him in the larger world. He believed that if you were good at what you did, and you did it with integrity, that was enough. He had not yet learned that in a world that often values noise over substance, sometimes the quietest voices need to find a way to roar. His peaceful existence, built on a foundation of hard work and humility, was about to be shaken to its very core, forcing him to look beyond his drafting table. The day it happened was bright and ordinary, the kind of day that gives no warning of the clouds gathering on the horizon. Ethan was attending a city planning gala, an event he usually avoided, but had been encouraged to attend by a well-meaning colleague. He stood near the back of the crowded ballroom, feeling a little like a misplaced book on a shelf of glossy magazines. He was observing the grand architecture of the hall when a loud, booming voice cut through the polite chatter. It belonged to Mr. Alistair Finch, a titan of the real estate world, a man known for his towering skyscrapers and an ego to match. He was holding court, surrounded by a circle of admirers. Ethan had unknowingly drifted near this circle, and a comment he made to his colleague about a structural design was overheard by Mr. Finch. The executive turned, his eyes sweeping over Ethan's simple suit with a dismissive glance. "And who is this?" Mr. Finch boomed with a cruel smile playing on his lips. "Another dreamer with a pencil, I presume? Let me give you some advice, son. Stick to designing garden sheds. The real work, the work that shapes a city's legacy, is for men who build empires, not dollhouses," Mr. Finch said. The laughter from the group was like a physical blow, each chuckle a sharp pebble thrown at Ethan's confidence. The room seemed to shrink, the air growing thick and heavy. Ethan felt a hot flush of embarrassment creep up his neck, his face burning as if he had a fever. He wanted the floor to open up and swallow him whole. He was not a man of confrontation. His tools were rulers and compasses, not sharp words. He could only stand there frozen as Mr. Finch turned his back on him, dismissing him as if he were nothing, a speck of dust in his grand world. The executive's words, so careless and cruel, had been delivered in front of everyone. They echoed in the sudden silence that fell over Ethan's small piece of the universe. He mumbled an apology to no one in particular and quickly made his way out of the ballroom. the sounds of the party fading behind him. The cool night air did little to soothe the fire in his cheeks. Walking home, the city lights blurred through the unshed tears in his eyes. Mr. Finch had not just insulted his work. He had insulted his very being. The quiet passion that gave his life meaning. He had made him feel small, insignificant, and utterly powerless. That night, sleep did not come. Ethan lay awake, the executive's mocking voice replaying in his mind, each word a painful reminder of his own invisibility. The days that followed were grey and heavy. The joy Ethan once found in his work was gone, replaced by a gnawing doubt. He would pick up his pencil, but his hand would hesitate. Mr. Finch's words, "Stick to designing garden sheds," had planted a seed of insecurity that was now growing like a weed in the garden of his mind. Was he just a dreamer? Was his quiet, detailed work truly insignificant in the grand scheme of things? The silence of his office, once a comfort, now felt like a confirmation of his irrelevance. He felt lost, as if the blueprint for his own life had been ripped to shreds before his very eyes. He spent a week in this fog of self-pity, avoiding his colleagues and letting calls go to voicemail. He would walk through the city and see the towering Finch Enterprises logo on construction sites, a constant gleaming reminder of his humiliation. Each building was a monument to the man who had belittled him. It felt like the entire city was laughing at him. He thought about quitting, about finding a different profession where his quiet nature would not be seen as a weakness. Maybe he could teach, or write, or do anything other than try to build things in a world that only seemed to respect the loudest voice in the room. But then, one evening, as he sat staring at a blank sheet of paper, something shifted inside him. It started as a small flicker, a tiny spark of defiance in the darkness of his despair. He thought about all the years he had dedicated to his craft, the countless hours spent perfecting his skills. He thought about the families living in homes he had designed, the children reading in libraries he had helped create. Was all of that meaningless? No, it was not. His work had value, even if a man like Alistair Finch was too arrogant to see it. The hurt began to transform, slowly, into a different kind of energy. It was not anger, not exactly. It was determination. The spark grew into a steady flame. Ethan would not let one man's cruel words define him. He would not retreat into the shadows. Instead, he would step into the light, not by becoming loud and arrogant like Mr. Finch, but by doing what he did best. He would prove his worth through his work. He learned that Mr. Finch's company was launching its most ambitious project yet, the Zenith Tower, a skyscraper that was meant to be the crown jewel of the city. A plan began to form in his mind, a blueprint for his own comeback. He would not fight Mr. Finch with words. He would join his project and show him through action the power of quiet, brilliant work. Ethan's decision was made. He would not let the insult fester. He would use it as fuel. The first step was the hardest. He had to find a way onto the Zenith Tower project. This was Mr. Finch's flagship development, staffed by the most famous and established architects in the industry. An unknown like him would normally not even get an interview. But Ethan was a master of details, and he spent days researching the project, not just the architectural plans, but the teams, the contractors, and the consulting firms involved. He was looking for a crack, a small opening where he could insert himself, a side door into the grandest stage in the city. He found his opening. A smaller, specialized engineering firm had been contracted to handle the complex internal support systems of the tower. It was not a glamorous role, but it was a crucial one. This firm was known for valuing technical skill over reputation. Ethan meticulously prepared his portfolio, focusing on his most complex and structurally innovative designs. He removed his name from the cover, wanting the work to speak for itself. He submitted his application not with a loud declaration, but with the quiet confidence of a craftsman who knows the quality of his work. His heart pounded as he waited, feeling like he was betting everything on this one move. To his immense relief, he was called for an interview. He walked into the firm's office, not as the embarrassed man from the Gala, but as a dedicated professional. He spoke calmly and clearly about structural integrity, load-bearing capacities, and innovative solutions to spatial challenges. The interviewers were impressed. They saw a passion and a depth of knowledge that was rare. They did not know his name, and they did not care. They saw the quality of his mind and the brilliance of his designs. He was offered a position on the team, a small cog in the giant machine of the Zenith Tower project, but he was in. Working on the project was a new challenge. He was no longer the sole creator in his quiet studio. He was part of a large, bustling team. He kept his head down and focused on his tasks, pouring all his energy and expertise into his work. He was assigned to review and refine the blueprints for the tower's core structure, a job that many considered tedious but that Ethan saw as vital. He spent long hours at his new desk, surrounded by the noise and energy of a major construction project, his pencil once again moving with purpose. He was no longer hiding. He was building his response, one precise line at a time.